still think about the how did I get here moments. I was talking about riding on top of a dump truck full of bananas down the highway in Hawaii. Like, how did I get here? You know, we're like cruising 60 down the Hawaiian highway on top of like 4,000 pounds of bananas. And like, this is just outrageous. I carry a coin around my pocket. It says Memento Mori on it, remember death in Latin. And our relationship to that coin has changed a lot over the last 5 years.
It's not always luck. It's not always by accident. There's something you did on purpose to end up somewhere.
There's a will behind it for sure.
Awesome. Welcome, Ethan, to the 13th episode of In Full Effect. Super excited for this one. We've been trying to set this one up for a while now and finally got you on a call. So I'm very excited.
Yeah.
For all the listeners, thank you so much for the support so far. It's been great and it's only going to get better. I'll introduce Ethan really quick, and he has so much more to say. We met, and this is a tricky one, in New Zealand in 2000, maybe 18 or 17?
16, I think.
Really?
Maybe. I think it could be. No, it could be 17 actually. I think it's 17. Right.
Yeah. So it was in the beginning of the year somewhere. But we were in a tiny village in Kaiteriteri in New Zealand on the South Island, doing our thing, working a backpacker's job. You were traveling and riding. You might have to explain to the audience a little bit what kind of travels you've been doing, because that's super exciting and interesting. So we lived there together for a couple of months. And then we split up. We met up a few more times, I think, in New Zealand. And then we went our own ways. You went back to the US as well. You did there like so many crazy shit as well. Your road trips. I remember you were staying in a lodge that you were running in the mountains. And I moved to Vietnam. Well, first Australia, then I moved to Vietnam. And then we met up again in January 2020 when I had a job in Phoenix. So that's the last time we caught up.
Yeah,
that was pretty interesting as well. So, and since then we always been in touch, and that's super cool. The reason actually I wanted to get you on is because you're a writer, you're an author, you have your website where you blog and write your thoughts away, and you have very interesting takes on certain things in life, especially your travel mindset and the way you handle that is very interesting. So I definitely want to pick your brain on that. So thank you for coming on. Super excited.
Yeah, I'm really excited to do it. It's awesome. Travel is like one of those things where you just run into really cool people, and to connect we connect like that and bounce around and run into each other, and then our lives are kind of intertwined, even though we're on opposite sides of the world and stuff. And it's good to it's good to catch back up and connect over the interwebs as we can these days. So, thanks 100%. For having me. Yeah.
No, glad to have you. And probably this podcast is more of a catch up. So let's dive deep into it. Cool. Maybe first of all, can you introduce yourself real quick and get the audience maybe an idea of the kind of travels you've been doing and the kind of experiences you had? Not too deep into detail, because I think we can talk for like hours again on that, but maybe like explain to them a little bit what you've been up to.
Sure. Yeah. So in like a shorter summary, I guess I graduated college at like 22 with a degree in like biomedical science and chemistry. And I thought I was going to go into medical school, but after pedaling a bicycle across the United States, I realized I did not want to do that. And the world was this big place, and I felt like I didn't know that much. So sort of just went out on this big adventure. It lasted more or less for 5 years. Took me to worked on a cruise ship, lived on the big island of Hawaii for 3 months, like wolfing on a farm, lived in Playa del Carmen, Mexico, kind of doing the digital nomad thing. And I started running that lodge next to Yellowstone National Park, this big log cabin place. I opened a bar there, hosted weddings, and had this like grand time in the mountains, just like a mile outside of Yellowstone for 3 summers. That kind of was like my job for 5 months. I'd take 7 months off. And then I kept traveling in those 7 months. I did a bunch of road trips, built out a Honda Element, went and like lived in the back of it, those little toaster cars. Lived in the back of that for like 6 months. Went to New Zealand for 4.5 months, Nepal, Cambodia. Just been bouncing all over, doing a lot of different projects and stuff, and writing, reading lots of books. And I'm just very interested in getting like a broad scope of like ideas and seeing the world and having a lot of exposure to things. And I felt like it went pretty well. Like that was the idea, and I felt like I hit it pretty good. It was a good, it was a very good time too. So
yeah, it was definitely a good time.
Essentially it.
So what are you up to now then?
So now things kind of changed. I came back after 5 years of traveling. I decided I wanted to become a pilot, and because I keep traveling, and it'd be a way to make some money while I do it, and have freedom and get to really far out places. I thought I wanted to fly like bush planes and stuff like that in Alaska and maybe Africa and stuff like that. So I started training here in Phoenix, and then the coronavirus pandemic happened, and that threw like a major curveball into the whole travel scene, and into getting a job flying was now an impossible thing. And that was a really hard time, confusing time for all, but my friends and I who were in flight school, had started a side gig real estate photography business at the time. And once we weren't able to fly anymore, we just kind of like went all in on the real estate photography business. So now we own a couple real estate photography businesses in Phoenix and Denver, Colorado. And we're, I shoot real estate like 5-6 days a week now. And we have a team of maybe 8 or 10 photographers across both places. And we're trying to expand it and build really good systems and stuff like that. So it's like just COVID threw a monkey wrench into things, but it's kind of turned out in a cool, unique way. So it's a very creative job and everything. So spend a lot of time doing that and trying to write and do the coach sort of blog side of thing that I do in the meantime in those spaces in between.
Cool. Nice. Yeah. So I'm happy you're still writing at least.
Yeah, when I can.
Yeah. Cool. So the podcast is all about your goals and your full potential and things like that. So I'm actually quite interested in what your goals are, and also how they evolved over time, especially with the crazy times that we've been through, and like you've been traveling. So I can imagine that your goals actually change almost on a daily or very, or maybe not. Yeah. So yeah, walk us through that.
Yeah, sure. I started out very driven in college, like going to get like a biomedical science degree, and I thought I was going to med school, and I went through that and had like a 3.9 GPA. It was just like studying all the time, like on it through all these really tough classes and stuff. And then I realized, then my goals changed. I pedaled that bicycle across the United States, and I was like, wow, that was kind of that's not the goal. That's not the right, it was very clear that was not the right goal for me anymore. So I was like, the goal shifted to just getting like a very broad experience. And I guess in some of that was also trying to become a writer. I read a ton of books. When we were in New Zealand, I think I had emailed Ryan Holiday, who's a writer, one of my sort of heroes or something. He's written books like Ego is the Enemy, Obstacle is the Way. He's a writer. He's an American writer that digs into a lot of stoicism and stuff like that. And I found him pretty cool, and had corresponded with him a couple of times. It was like, hey, Ryan Holiday, like, what do I do to like get on like your level and become like I should I go to school and write? And he's like, just read a ton of books, just like read so many books, like, and you're just going to like you're going to learn, you're going to develop a voice through that and pick up on the patterns and everything. So after I got that email, I actually went to New Zealand, and I read 27 books in 4.5 months there. A lot of them were like 1,000-page monsters and stuff. I was on the beach reading 4 or 5 hours a day, just trying to grow that. So I spent a lot of time trying to be a writer, and that's still like really, I'd say, my like overarching goal. But I think life has all these different changes and stuff in it, and the coronavirus threw sort of curveball into that, and that creativity got more channeled into photography and videography and stuff like that over the past couple of years. But then I think maybe the most interesting thing was probably like 6 months ago. I watched this interview with John Frusciante, who is the lead singer of the Red Hot Chili. No, sorry, he's the lead guitarist of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. The dude's like, I think he's like one of the more enlightened beings on the face of the earth. And there's this interview. I think it's, if you just Google like John Frusciante creativity, you find it on YouTube. He's just standing in front of a bunch of tree stuff, talks like 45 minutes. And I really I've listened to that like 6-8 times, something like that. And it was this, he has this view of creativity and of life and everything as life as a sort of creative force. And it kind of has really reshaped the way I see goals and everything like that. And I'm a little more interested in just following my interest these days. And that I think that there's a quote from it. I think it's like, if you stop following the interest inside of you, your life will gradually lose meaning until you're old. And I think there's this like thing with like just like interfacing with like immediate reality, where if you're into what is in front of you, if you're engaged in it, like you're sort of feeding that engagement and growing it. And if you stay with that interest and follow your interest into things, you really have this like powerful connection with the present, and you find life more of a thing that pulls you in and everything like that. So I guess my goals have more broadly just gone into like really like following interest and kind of loosening the bounds on my or loosening the limitations on my creativity or just life direction and stuff a little bit also. So that's been interesting lately too. Yeah.
That's very interesting indeed. So more like let life take control of you instead of you trying to shape it in a direction that's not necessarily the natural way of doing.
Yeah, and because you have interests in you already that are sort of you, like these experiences we've had in our past. We kind of know what we like. I really like books, so I'm going to be interested in picking up another book. So I'm kind of like guided. The interest is kind of like already like kind of tuned in me to the things I really like. So if I just follow my interest, I'm really like, it's already like finely tuned within me kind of. While it's like life, it seems to be kind of pushing around and stuff, it's also like, it's all your past and stuff that kind of has created you. And then that is kind of like dictating where you go based on what you're interested in. So yeah, it's an interesting,
it's very interesting take. Yeah, I knew when I'm gonna get you on the podcast, I would get very interesting thoughts, and that's the reason why I want to get you on, of course.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So, how do you look at your full potential then? Like, how do you think you can reach that, or what is your thought about that in general?
Yeah, potential. I think that. I kind of believe in a model of life that's more based on finding instead of seeking so much, where like I do, following the interest and stuff. The interests in my life were sort of found as well. I think a lot of people, like if you look back at our past, there's moments that really, the things we really love are like, there was some moment in your past where you realized you loved it. You encountered that thing and it really clicked for you. So I think that kind of informs the potentials of where you go and stuff too. I feel like I could go so many, directions. Like I almost became a doctor. I almost became a pilot, and I do real estate photography, run a lodge, and I've done all these different things. And I feel like I could have kept doing them and gotten really good at any of those things, but I didn't give enough of my I stopped and went to something else or something like that. And I didn't give enough of my my energy to it for it to sort of fully propagate. So I feel like the potential could run in any sort of way. And it's sort of like wherever you apply your energy sort of in the right way, that the potential just kind of grows there and stuff. I've put a lot of energy into writing and a lot of just the creative act and stuff. So I think a lot of my potential lies in there, but I see it as a sort of adventure of like finding where it's gonna take me and just sort of really interfacing with it in the moment and as life goes, and not really, and finding it instead of seeking it, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, so you're not really actively trying to optimize yourself to do the best you can in whatever you do. It's more like you go with the flow of what your interests are and what you're good at the moment, and just go with that instead of fighting to achieve something that is in the end of the day not your interest anymore, perhaps.
Yeah, I think that the things I really fine tune and work on are like habits and stuff like that as well. Like I'm very, very into like intermittent fasting, and like I've really like my diet is like pretty like dialed in. I feel like very healthy in my body. I try to work out pretty much, work out, run, do some sort of physical activity every day. And I use that to sort of reset my brain. I feel like I've built my days around sort of, wake up in the morning, get some good work done, and go use my body somehow, and then maybe go to a couple photo shoots after that, and everything's kind of like, I'm trying to really optimize the habits and stuff so they're not kind of in the way, and they're keeping me feeling really good and healthy, supple, and everything, and allowing me to hit my full potential in a day or something. So that's where I do a little bit more kind of structured, logical thinking, I guess, with the habits and tuning those things. And the interest is kind of holds the reins or something, maybe.
So like little daily things to just do the best for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you want to be like, like being in the right state of mind. The body and the mind, they're all like, it's all one, it's all tethered together. And like, yeah, before this afternoon, I knew we were gonna have this podcast. So this afternoon I went and I had lifted weights at the gym for a while, and I took I hit the sauna afterwards. And I'm like, I feel like butter right now. It's really nice. And I'm in a nice place to sit down and really focus and do this. Versus if I worked all afternoon and then opened my laptop and did this, I'd be a little frazzled and stuff.
So the right state of mind.
Yeah. And I think they're all tethered. It's all tethered together. So
very interesting. Yeah. If you don't really have like a set goal, let's say, and you just kind of follow your body, your mind, your interests, what does success mean to you?
Yeah. So I guess we have to put some. There has to be some logic to the thing too, and I guess maybe that's where the success piece will come in and give you a better, trying to lay out my worldview here of sorts, I guess. And so I guess I see success as I would feel successful if I had, I want to be able to spend my time how I want to, and I see money and finances sort of as a way of freeing up my time and earning freedom as kind of the highest priority with it, rather than like material possessions and stuff like that. So like success for me, I have a 2009 Prius that the paint's chipping off of it, and but it gets great gas mileage and has no problems whatsoever. And I'm totally fine with that. And if I had $5 million, I'd probably drive something about the same. I think that we live in a society that's kind of like, built on a lot of consumption and stuff like that. So I think that the average, that's like of the age, what we're in an age of sort of consumption. So I think the average person or the cultural like norm is kind of like warped in a sort of consumery way, because that's just what the age is sort of. So I try to like dial down on that a lot, and that provides a lot more time, because I don't need to spend as much time making money, and that leads to freedom. And so success for me is to just have the freedom to maybe pursue my interests and just live in a way that I enjoy. Freedom is a big part of it, and just trying to be as light as possible, rather than like trying to I'm trying to, I'm doing a sort of startup here with the photography and trying to make enough money that maybe I could do that, for my life for a long time, 5 years from now, from like 5 years from now or something. But the goal is to just get that freedom more than to get a mansion or, 8 cars or something.
Yeah. So your relationship with money is more as a vehicle to what your real goals are, as what is freedom, and not necessarily as a product to have. So you would value your time way more then?
Yes. Yeah. So that's probably the crux of it, is I would put time above money. And the thing is that as I really learned during COVID, if you don't have any money, your time is not that free. I live in Phoenix, Arizona right now, major city, and the average rent is like $1,200 a month for a 1-bedroom or something now, and it's like if you don't have much money and you have to make that every month just to like stay afloat or something like that, you don't have much freedom at all. So I kind of went through in COVID, I was living this lifestyle before that where I actually lived on about $8,000 a year for 5 years, which is like less than a fraction of what rent would be here. It was like my total expenses, because I didn't rent and I was just traveling and living out of a backpack mostly. And now it's like this, it became this thing when I wanted to kind of get back in the system of things here, that I needed more money to do that. And if I didn't have it, I just had to like work a ton right now in order to pay my bills. And that sucks. You know, that's where the money gets in the way of the freedom and the time. So I kind of see money as a means of getting more time and freedom.
But also like money will give you a better quality of time, right? As you mentioned, like when you're not working, for example, that means you have no money, but you might also, you also will have time because you're not working, but the quality of your life or the time that you have is way more stressful, and it will affect you in a negative way, I would suppose.
Exactly. Yeah. Having your really low needs, you know, I was making, you know, I only need to spend $8,000 a year, but in 5 months I could make $20,000. So it was like, there's no pressure. So when there's that difference, there's no pressure on me to do it, which was pretty relaxing and everything. But so like having that difference between, you know, having some money stored up and everything is very, very relieving too. But I think that there's also a tendency in our culture to really look at money as a thing that we need to spend money to be entertained or to relax or something. And I think there's a lot of things that I learned from living on $8,000 a year. There's a lot of things that don't cost anything, you know, being outside in nature, hiking, backpacking, hanging out with friends, you know, playing Frisbee in the park, whatever. There's a lot of great things that don't require it. So I've kind of tried to steer my life a little bit into that, like lesser expensive, outdoors, free floating sort of way to make that not so hard to swallow, sort of having not as much money. Yeah.
So how do you value experiences over all of that? Is that something you chase, or how does it affect you? Do you seek experiences?
Yeah, I really want to have lots of like novel, crazy experiences. But I think I wrote an article once called "How Did I Get Here?" Moments, and it was about like, for me, the highest moment of travel, I was saying, was like, it was never the thing you planned. It was always the thing that you showed up and you're kind of there, and then you met someone, which led to this, which led to that, and then there was this moment. So it was like, how did I get here? And so those are the sort of experiences that I'm looking for a lot of times. It's that finding, and rather than I don't know, because, you know, it's like we're moving into the future and we can't see it. So it's like it's really hard to know what's ahead of you. There's no way to know what's ahead of you, what exactly to look for, but like finding it in the present is like kind of brings you to this, like it brings you to the forefront of your experience. So I guess I seek experiences like in a finding sort of way rather than a seeking sort of way. If that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So, but you kind of set it up in a way that you let it come to you, right? You need to set yourself open for these kind of things.
Yeah. There's this great quote I read. I cannot remember the guy's name, but he wrote an article about increasing the surface area of serendipity. And that was like, that's totally it for me. And that's what writing does a lot for me too, is increases that surface area with all these people over the internet and stuff, and connecting with people, and travel does that too. That's how we connected. So increasing the surface area for serendipities, like that's, I think, the way to find, rather like to try to find rather than seek, maybe.
Cool. So what would be one of your craziest adventures?
The first thing that comes to mind, I'm still thinking about the how did I get here moments. I was talking about riding on top of a dump truck full of bananas down the highway in Hawaii. That was when the article came. I was like, how did I get here? You know, I'm like with like two like great friends, just like cruising 60 down the Hawaiian highway on top of like 4,000 pounds of bananas, and like this is just outrageous. So there's moments like that, but then there's like like broad, beautiful, more time expansive adventures. Like I think hiking the Annapurna circuit in Nepal was maybe one of the. I mean, it was sort of spiritual thing almost. Those mountains are so big, and it just feels so mystic. Like all this like Buddhism in the area and everything, and that in like a more longer sense, I would maybe say the Annapurna circuit would be one of my favorite adventures as well.
Yeah, it's actually quite funny now you say like, how did I get here? And then makes me think about the adventures we had in New Zealand. and especially like, for example, the nights at Park Cafe and things like
Oh
that.
yeah.
And then end
Piling
up
those
in
cars.
yeah, and then ending up on the beach in the middle of the night with a bottle of wine and like people from all over the world. And it's like, how the hell did this come together?
Yeah. I originally planned to stay there for 2 weeks, and I think I stayed for like 7.5. They're like, "Are you going to leave, Ethan?" I'm like, maybe. Like,
Yeah.
that was such a beautiful time and place, and
Yeah.
constant. How did I get here? Moments there.
Oh yeah, all the time. I spent 4.5 months there.
Yeah.
And that was or 5 months. And it was one of the craziest moments in my life. Like I lived on the top of a hill and I had to go through a jungle trek every night. And then after I had a few too many drinks and my battery from my phone was out and I was pitch dark in the jungle. And I remember walking up to a possum at one point. Like, what the fuck?
Oh yeah. That Kaiteriteri, man. That's one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite places. Like what a hidden gem, you know.
Yeah, it's so tiny town in New Zealand, and then lots of adventures.
Yeah,
awesome. So you've been through so many different experiences. You've done a lot. You tried a lot. What would be your ideal lifestyle if you could choose right now? How would you live your life right now?
Yeah. I think it'd be really cool if the real estate photography kept going really well. We're trying to expand that and stuff. And I'd like to continue doing some shooting, and it'd be fun. I think it'd be a fun thing to do, kind of grow a company through this process. And it's a very creative act. I get to do web design and write all these things and do these business meetings with these people that are way more involved in this like stuff and know a lot more than I do and stuff. So it's been a cool adventure. So I'm kind of hoping that plan plays out in a way that's financially fruitful, and then kind of like I can sort of decouple myself from the function of the business a bit and kind of oversee it, and then just do lots of like, there's a couple books I want to write. I still haven't written my first book, like a third of the way through, and it's just COVID and all that. It wasn't coming out right. So I want to get deep into a lot of creative projects. I'd like to travel a lot more in my life too. I love spending a couple months at a time in different places. I just this December, I got to spend, December into January, I spent about 5 weeks in Colombia. So it was like my first time in South America. So doing those, like having my time to be able to go spend 5 weeks in a place or 3 months in a place would be ideal, honestly. Like once a year or something like that would be really cool. But yeah, I just want to be open to, I want to have the time to be open to following my interest in working. Really still, like, I don't see myself ever stopping like working, but always working on like the creative projects and stuff that I really want to work on, because there's so much to do, and there's so many good ideas to help lift up in the world and stuff. And I want to just keep interacting with that, following my interest. Yeah.
Nice. Growing a business, how does it excite you? Is it like, I have the same here. I like trying to grow a business, and it's just like the fact that you're able to put one and one together and make it even better, and then you capitalize on that. Like, how does that go for you? Besides the creativity, what's the favorite part of running a business or owning a business?
I'm surprised how much I like it, actually. I've always been kind of a little, you maybe guess from the interview, I'm a little like a bit of a nonconformist or something like that. Like, I don't want to do this. I want to go and do these creative things and stuff. But I've had a really good time. My business partner is like he is really good at like knocking on doors and getting through them and making things happen. And we get into ourselves with these crazy projects. Like in 3 weeks into the formation of our company, he got us shooting a TV show for Hulu with a drone that we didn't even own. We had to rent to do it, like a $12,000 drone, for like movies. And then I almost got a sky. I was going to shoot a skyscraper last week. It kind of fell through. We've met with like CEOs of these big companies. And we just sit down with people that I'm just like, I don't like.
How did I end up
here?
here?
How did I get here? Yeah. So it's been an adventure in that way. I've had a business adventure the past 2 years that was quite unexpected, and following that and going, and we give speeches at places and stuff too. And like throwing yourself into those things. It's like it's growth in a completely different way than I'm used to, but I'm having a good time doing it too. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I think for me, it's like the possibility of creating opportunity by connecting with the right people and putting your skills to the work where people need it. I think that's just the essence of business, or at least because we're both in the creative business, right? So
yeah,
it's just so interesting.
Yeah, just using those skills to help other people and stuff is well, what a great use of your skills, right?
And awesome. You make some money doing so that's great.
Everybody wins.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about money, time, and stuff like that, and how you value your freedom. But what are other core values of you that you go by in life?
I think being kind to people is very important to me. Life's a lot of fun, and there's all sorts of crazy cool things to do here and stuff, but there's also an equal amount of hardship and suffering and stuff too. And you never know what people are going through. We walk around and just see people, and you just make kind of assumptions about it. We don't know anything about what they're doing at the moment, what they're thinking and stuff. So I try to be really kind. I'd like to, I think every human has some need, like deep rooted desire to feel like they're a good influence on the world, that they're a positive, that their interactions lift things up rather than pull things down. And so I think that kindness and goodness are things I strive for very deeply. I also just like, I really enjoy being surprised by life and the serendipity of the whole thing. I guess like I read this Alan Watts book, The Wisdom of Insecurity, and the whole point of it was sort of that no one wants to see their whole life like ahead. If you could see your whole life laid out ahead of you, like it'd be the worst thing. The uncertainty and the unknown that we fear is really the thing that makes life like the great thing that it is, and at least can be. So I've really been trying to like embrace uncertainty in my life, and with business and stuff too. There's scared. We have a big client or something. You're really like, oh, is this gonna be right? Like it's like that weight, that worry it's the dark face of a really it's the dark side of the coin of a good coin that makes life sort of worth living. So I'm just kind of like really I'm trying to have a good time, and I'm trying to enjoy the crazy ride that life is. Life's fucking it's wild. Sorry, I don't know if I could say the F word.
It's fine. I gave up on trying to bleep out for people, so no, it is fucking crazy. And yeah, that's I think one of the reasons that brought us together as well. This the mindset we have around all of that. How do you see? I wouldn't say destiny, but I always have a saying: it's like do what you love to do, and you will be surrounded by the people with the same interests and things like that. Yeah. Is that also one of the reasons that you just do what you want and you find those kind of people, or how do you go about that?
Yeah, I think following your interests is one of the best way to find the people that you love, the people you love and jive with. Yeah, like destiny wise, I'm starting to see myself as a little bit less of like an individual, like Ethan in the flesh, and like you look across, like where am I over 1,000 years across time? If you took a photo exposure of yourself for 1,000 years, you wouldn't even show up in that 1,000-year exposure. It would just be change and everything. And I'm kind of starting to almost having a little bit of a shift of identity, a little bit away from this like smaller individual self and to a larger sense of like self and all things. So like the destiny or the fate of it just seems like a great mystery to me. It's just like, it seems like something so much bigger. It feels like something so much larger than I am as Ethan, this self. It feels so much bigger. And I feel like I'm just playing a little part of it along for the ride and just trying to enjoy it, I guess.
Yeah. Well, there's no point of resisting anything, I would say.
No, yeah. It just hurts. Yeah.
So who and what have been like the biggest influences in your life? But let's start with who, because obviously you made a lot of decisions that turned yourself into who you are right now. I mean, you follow your interests, but who has shaped you the most in your life?
Yeah.
Besides yourself.
Yeah. It's an interesting question for me because I think a lot of the shaping probably occurs, in childhood and you're younger and in adolescent years and stuff. I have a really bad memory of that because I had the whole, I guess I never brought that up yet. When I was 16, I got bit by a mosquito. I had this viral meningoencephalitis. I had a sort of my brain, the fluid on my brain swelled up and it compressed my brain. And I had all these seizures and I had brain damage. I came out, couldn't talk when I came out of the hospital, and I had all these issues for like a year or two after that. I had to work out through therapy, like physical therapy and stuff like that. So it was pretty wild experience, but it took away a lot of it's like scrambled my brain a lot. And it took away a lot of my memories of childhood and stuff like that. But looking back on it, I do kind of see myself in a way as a sort of hybrid of, like, as the base influence, is sort of a hybrid of my parents, actually. Like, my mom is a very artistic, like deep, intuitive person on one side, and my dad is a very logical, creative designer. And I feel like kind of between those two things, like a sort of hybrid between, I feel like I have a deep intuitive sense and stuff developed by my mom, and a very logical, planning, thinking sense developed by my dad. And I think this is a really good base. I was very lucky to have that base as probably the strongest influence. I can't remember. But yeah, other influences just along the way, books. I mean, there's a bunch of authors that have changed the way I see the world many times over. Maybe Peter Matthiessen and The Snow Leopard would be a book like that. The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle. Jack Gilbert has a just book of collected poems that I just read over and over again. And then in the last year, I actually got to meet this guy, Ed Bjorn, who was, he wrote in like 1971, he wrote the book Vagabonding, and it was like a guide to Europe and North Africa. It was just like fantastic book. And I heard him on a podcast at like 85 years old on this, like on a podcast. And he said he hosts people on couch surfing and like in California sometimes. And I wrote him and ended up staying with him for a couple of days, and he just blew my mind. It's really shuffled the way I think a lot lately too. So I just, finding all sorts of things along the way that are just tuning my direction or potential and stuff like that. It's like, yeah.
That's crazy. Well, so you kind of already answered your question, what shaped your life a lot? Obviously books, but then the incident you had when you were younger, besides like memories and stuff, how did that influence you moving forward in life?
Yeah, that's probably the most foundational experience to who I am in some ways, because I was a very different person before that and after that. It was what it was gradually realizing after the fact that I had almost died, like and realizing the temporariness of this existence. And I think we can all intellectually understand that, but I felt that to like a crazy deep degree. And that gave me a well of courage to just draw upon. I was 16, so I just turned 30. So for the past 14 years, I've been drawing upon that that knowing that this is all gonna, everything we build, everything, we're going to relinquish all of it. And so you might as well like fucking go for it, was kind of the what I kind of came to around 21, 22, and why I think I had the courage to jump away from medical school and go out and travel and do all these things and meet you. It all stems from that, I think, in some way.
Nice. So that's basically how your mindset shaped to who you are right now.
Yeah, that's really very influential upon it. I really felt myself as a individual soul in Ethan at 16 and earlier, and now I'm kind of seeing myself. I feel myself a little bit more a part of things now, and intrinsically woven into the whole thing. And so, like, I've always, meditating on death. I carry a coin around in my pocket. It says "Memento Mori" on it. Remember death in Latin. And my relationship to that coin has changed a lot over the last 5 years too. So. It's evolving. It's evolving. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very interesting. Like, we know each other over 5 years already, I think. No, is it 5 years? About 5 years. So and we haven't always been in touch every moment of time, but every few months or so, whatever it is. And it's very interesting to see how your mindset goes. It's like the way you talk, the way you formulate, the way you want to achieve things. I remember a lot of these things. So yeah, it was very exciting to have you like explain that all to people and trying to explain that, because I think it's also like you do a lot of writing, but I think it's also very different if you have to say it out loud.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really do want to get, I think my mind is just so like, I've been so busy with the real estate and stuff. My mind's so steeped in this business and stuff right now. When it, it's kind of like a momentum of your thoughts and stuff that really kind of been rolling lately. I've been doing so much real estate photography. I was telling you before, we have so many shoots right now, and I'm like covering all over the place all day. Doing these things, but I will get back to books and the books I want to write, and I have a deep connection to writing in particular that is kind of just on the back burner right now, and I think that probably looking back over what we've talked about so far, it's probably reflected in that too. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I really want to get back to that, and I will. But it's just kind of the time I'm in right now is. I've got a shot. I'm kind of making a bet that this business that I'm working on is going to grow and become a thing that can support that writing for the rest of my life or something. It's hard to get the time to write a book or something like that, but it may be able to work it out this 100%. Way. So I'm throwing some chips on the table and going for it, sort of.
Yeah, 100%. Now, I think it might be. What I just thought about is because you've been blogging for that same amount of time or even longer. Yeah. If you would put out a timeline with the amount of blogs per month you were bringing out, and then see what events in life were actually happening during those times, because you had months where you wrote 4, 5, 6 blogs. Recently, it's been 1 or 2 because you've been so busy. You still do your monthly. End of the month,
the late night letters.
The late night letters. I get them on the 1st of the month or even the 2nd sometimes because I'm ahead of you. But yeah, I always look forward to those just to see what is he up to now. And then,
I love it, like that. That's one of the coolest creative things that I've found, because it's like I can always fit it, and it's like I just sit down at night and, I'm actually going to write one after this podcast. I love like getting pinched in the, it's like, you got to write this thing and send it before you go to sleep. And there's some mystical thing about the night, and you're just there with the keyboard, and it's 2:30 in the morning, and you're like, kind of like trying to wrap this up so you can go to bed. And it's like a really cool, like creative pinch and like weird headspace to be in. That's kind of like that's sort of my 12 times a year. Like, my articles they have dropped off over the past 2 years with the photography, but I always write once a month during that thing. And it's like, it's this respite of just diving into just pure creative writing mindset. And I love those things. They're a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's great. I'll definitely link your website down below so people can sign up for the newsletter and all the blogs as well. It's definitely worth it. Awesome. So moving forward, do you compare yourself with people at all?
Yeah, I think it's inevitable that we do. I try not to. I don't think it's very healthy to. I think it's like, we're all just like on our own, like adventure here. And, I think it's trite, but I think trying to compare with yourself and where you were and get better at things is probably a better way than comparing with other people. But it's just like really like going traveling for me was like, I live in the United States, and it's very privileged with the amount of money and stuff we have. It's just insane. I don't have I look at the people around me sometimes, and we all live here. Most people don't travel a ton and stuff, haven't gone and seen these other places. And someone that's like middle class is like so much stuff, and they have this big house, multiple cars, and all these. Like they have a lot, but they don't feel like it because they're comparing themselves to the people around them. And maybe that's the only place they've ever been. But, you go to Nepal and hike up in the mountains, and you're like, oh my gosh, like these people have a yak this year for like meat, and they're selling it to me, and it bends that sense of comparison and scale in a really good way. So if I compare, I try to expand who I'm comparing myself with, and it's the state of the world, and not just the sort of economic pool of money that the United States is, because it can be a thief of joy trying to keep up with the Joneses here, sort of.
Yeah. So you rather get inspired by not even like the success of people, but Oh yeah, I wouldn't say maybe inspired. Then when what you're talking about in Nepal, it's more of a reality check and a comparison of where you're at with them. Then
Yeah, and the other thing that's interesting is I find that people in Nepal are actually happier than I think they're happier there than they are here.
yeah,
Which definitely says something about, it's like, well, what are we comparing? I guess is the question, and that comes down to values and stuff.
I have that here as well in Vietnam.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been to Cambodia, so you've seen the people there. It's very similar here.
Yeah.
People are happy that they're able to eat, sometimes, and things like that, especially during COVID. It was crazy. People are like, oh, my freedom. I'm like, dude, these people, they're happy that they have a kilo of rice for the next week for their family.
Yeah.
So things like that.
And I think that's really healthy to see that and know that it helps. So especially being from here, that really helped me like put things in perspective and open my values up too, to like one of the things like community and in a place that doesn't have as much financial resources, the communal bonds between people are way closer. We're more isolated in these places with these individual houses and fences and separation and stuff, and that community and interwovenness, I think that's a big source of happiness for human beings. I think we're social creatures, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, different values for sure, but I think that's very much how it gets fed to people as well, and how culture dictates that.
That's the culture. Yeah, I guess I'm kind of steeped in the culture of the United States right now to start that comparison thing off with thinking in terms of how we compare each other in the United States. It's 100%. Kind of sad.
True.
Yeah.
Would you have any tips for people listening to reach their goals, or not even reach their goals? Because I think a lot of people, and that's one of the reasons I started a podcast, is to find goals, to find my goals. What's my true calling, or what is it that I want long term?
Yeah.
Because for me, I kind of know what I want short term and midterm, but what do I really want? That's why I early asked, what's your ideal lifestyle and things like that. But would you give people some tips on finding goals and how to reach them? Or what is your take on that?
Yeah. I think like I've been walking further and further away from like straight direct, like setting a goal and trying to go there as much as like finding and tweaking. The thing that I think the tip that I think I maybe could uniquely offer is looking at the habit side of things and sort of trying to optimize your schedule and trying to find ways to use your body and to keep your mind in a good state. And these things are connected, the head and the body, and creating those good habits, using like I would die if I couldn't exercise every day. Like it's so good for me. And so like that's like a big thing for like, in order for me to work for, I could sit down and do 10, 12 hours of web design in a day if I punctuate it twice with, getting outside and running or a sauna or something like that, and a walk. So that's a big thing. But I think thinking about trying to be open in the present moment to what is in front of you. And, the situation is always new. We're like often looking at the past to try and like predict the future. But the place where the past and the future interface is that present moment. And if you're in that present moment and there and kind of fresh for it, I think you can see these new opportunities and things coming in a way that people that are looking behind them to try to figure out how they're going to go in the future are kind of like, they're not going to see it as well as you if you're there looking at it as it's unfolding. So that's kind of how I think about it now. It's different than how I thought about it.
So instead of looking forward and trying to reach for it, you're saying like, okay, let's reel it back. Think about what's going on right now and optimize and balance your body, mind, and life right now.
Yeah. And trying to do really well whatever you're doing right now, trying to do it really well and like really engaging with it. Even when I just do like real estate photography, like I try to just give myself to that, to the art of it, whatever, and just be there for it and with it. And it's like a, I'm going to put a quote in my late night letter at the top. It's like a Henry Matisse quote, a painter, and it's something like the goal is to approach work in a state almost like prayer or something like that. And that's the kind of being in that state. Like if you're doing like a business or something and you approach it every day with this eyes open to it and doing the thing, and and maybe you have like I have goals of growing this business into a larger thing. So it's not like they're without them and stuff, but I think they're more like obviously the business wants to grow, and stuff. So I kind of like, all right, I'm doing that. But how do I do it is all happening right here. So that's kind of how I see it.
That's great. So to be able to indulge yourself in getting really good at something, you need focus, right? How do you get into a state of focus?
Yeah. Well, and that's where the interest, I think if you're really interested in something, it's very easy to focus on. If you like what you do, like I've really found I like creative things, and I can sit down at a coffee shop and like to design a web page, and 4.5 hours will go by. And I'm just like, whoa, 4.5 hours just went by. It's like, I got here at 8, now it's noon. And, I should go eat lunch, I guess. I'm interested in, I like graphic design and it's really, it's a privilege. It's hard to do, especially creative work. It's so hard to make money doing creative work, versus all these other, because people, it's fun. It's kind of fun to do creative work. So a lot of people want to do it. So they kind of duke it out a little more to make a smaller amount of money. But yeah, if you're not super interested, I think it helps to, grease the wheel through exercise and those things. I think I'm lucky in the respect of focus and stuff too. I have a mind that wants to, like, I've always been good at like absorbing information and stuff like that. And I've just had a mind that just takes info in well. So focus has never been too much of a problem for me there, where I'm just sort of lucky in that respect. But loving the things you do and treating your body really well are the two like things that I really focus on too. So that breeds the focus for me.
That's great. How many books have you read in your whole life?
I don't know. I've probably, it's not a million. I think I read probably about like, on average, probably read like 25 to 30 books a year since I was probably like 22. So 8 years, 25. It's probably like 200 to 250 books I've probably read. It's really,
okay.
Yeah. It's that, I just, a lot of times I'm just reading before bed and stuff, but I always have a book that I'm reading and some new
Do you
idea.
use physical books?
Yeah, unless I'm traveling. I have a Kindle. When I was in New Zealand, I had a Kindle because carrying around 27 books was not going to happen with my backpack. But I love books. I love holding books. I love turning pages. I love the physical. I love opening and closing them. I think they're almost like a culturally, like it's like symbolically charged thing for me or something.
Yeah,
really.
I used to read a lot as a teenager, a book a week or something.
Yeah,
but this was like stories, not like self-development or biographies or things like that.
Yeah, and stories have a lot of good stuff in them too. There's big truths in fiction as well as nonfiction.
So what I wanted to ask you is, do you have recommendations for people for self-improvement, for personal development? Like what books, for example, have been your favorite and most monumental changes in your life, or what other tools do you use that you can recommend to people?
All right, let's see some books. Like one of the things that's come to my mind in an interesting way is the book Born to Run. It's a fantastic book about this guy going, I won't get too into it. It just gets you so excited about being a human being and running when you realize that a human being was made to cover like large distances in one go, like better than pretty much any other like land animal, because the way we sweat and we don't have hair and stuff, and that you can run like 20, 30 miles, like very, like not a lot of animals can do that. And like suddenly like, wow, I'm like kind of special in this way or something, like we're special in this way. got me really into running in a way. So that was I think finding things that can push you, like can like throw you into the love of something is kind of one of the most give you interest is one of the most powerful things a book can do. Yeah, another like the 4-hour work week was like very like open mind. If you're like working on like a startup or something, you need to like live very frugally, do different things around the world, work internationally. Like there's a bunch of cool ideas in that. There's so many have provided so many little different details that make up the structure of my world, my worldview and my perspective and stuff. It's hard to pick out individual ones.
Yeah. Or a certain habit, perhaps, as you talked about habits before.
Yeah. Yeah. I've never read any books about habits.
You haven't? Oh, you should. Atomic Habits. Yeah. Try that one. Yeah. That's honestly like a crazy good book.
Oh, really good. I have it. I haven't read it. It's on my bookshelf for like that. I
you should. That was. Yeah. I haven't read many books on personal development, or I did a few, like a dozen maybe. Yeah. And that's the one that sticks the most to me. But you already have good habit system, so perhaps it wouldn't be so monumental to you. But
oh yeah, it'd be good to there's like doing things intuitively is good, but understanding the way understanding the mechanisms behind it and stuff too is really powerful. So yeah, I definitely will. Definitely.
Yeah. You're probably busy with 20 other books.
Yeah, it's just reading all over the place. I had a really cool moment happen with a book. I became friends with this guy, Brian Cornell, who just he wrote a book about hiking the Continental Divide Trail in the United States from Mexico to Canada in the Rocky Mountains. And I was reading the book last week, and he called me while I was reading his book. I was like, oh my God, because we became friends over the last 2 years. So I got my first call from an author while reading a book the other day, which was
that's cool.
Kind of funny, special moment.
So probably been bouncing off like what he's been writing about.
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about those long adventures like that are they're a breed of their own as well.
True. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. What are your short, mid, and long-term goals?
Yeah. Okay.
As of now.
Yeah. Always changing. But short-term goals right now, I'm really trying to build good systems that function well for the real estate photography business. We're going to try and scale it and open different locations and stuff, I think. So trying to really dial in this one and every thing about it so it can be easily replicated well. Once you copy it 8 times, anytime you change it one thing, once you got to change it 8 times. So you want to do it right the first time very well. So I'm doing a lot of fine tuning with that in the short term, but so short term working, trying to do the business side of things there. One of the goals I have for this year is to learn to surf. Hopefully have December off again. And real estate photography gets slow and around the holidays and stuff. So I might try and travel somewhere. I'm thinking maybe like Bali or something and try to learn to surf over like a month there. So maybe I'll stop by Vietnam.
Yeah, I was just about to say.
Like midterm, I think I'd like to grow this business and then kind of move into the background of it and oversee it and let it run and make it a fruitful business, hopefully for a lot of people that are working in it, make it a good business and kind of get off the reins and focus on other creative projects. Long term, I think I want to lead a very interesting creative life full of adventure and good people. One of the things I do, I have this like Wonder Wander event I've done twice where I just like have like a dozen people meet. The lodge I ran next to Yellowstone first. I did it last November. We met in southern Utah on the incredible red rock scenery and like near all these national parks and in a cabin with like a dozen just like people that read my late night letters. So I really write about this is interest. It's all interest. I write about what I'm interested in. So it attracts people who are also interested to what I write about. So when I have these events where it's like we're similar people that are interested in similar things, but also very different walks of life and stuff. Just kind of have these like melting pot events of like ideas and everyone that shares different experiences and stuff. And that's like community like that is like really important and finding it's sort of like I feel like I've used the internet to like increase my surface area for serendipity and find my people that way. So I really want to keep doubling down in the long term on my people, on community, on those connections. And and just, enjoying life and trying to just be in love with it and with everyone.
That's great. Yeah, I'd always tried to come to one of those, but it's been difficult times.
Yeah, you got a long way to go to get here too.
Yeah, actually, it might be in the US soon. So for a job, we'll see.
Well, if you're here in October, I'm actually going to have my next one on October 13th.
It would be in May already. So.
No. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You never know.
Yeah, exactly. What is, out of all the books or out of all the philosophies you've been through, your favorite quote?
Okay, so I have a quote, but I have it next to me here. I have this little. This is my favorite book of poetry, and I figured I'd read you a poem if you asked me about a quote, because it is a quote technically. Mind if I read a poem?
Yeah, go ahead.
Cool. This is my favorite. I think this is my favorite poem in this book. And it's by an older Jack Gilbert, the author. He's probably in his 60s or something, maybe 70s or something at his time of writing this. But it's called The Garden. And I'll read it real quick. We come from a deep forest of years into a valley of an unknown country called loneliness. Without horse or dog, the heavens bottomless overhead. We are like Marco Polo, who came back with jewels hidden in the seams of his ragged clothes. A sweet sadness, a tough happiness. This beginner cobbles together a kind of house and makes lentil soup there, night after night, sits on the great stone that is a threshold, smelling the pines in the hot darkness. When the moon rises between tall trunks, he sings without talent, but with pleasure. Then goes inside to make courtesy with his dear ghosts. In the morning, he watches the two nuthatches, the pair of finches with their new son, and the chickadees. There are chipmunks in the afternoon, finding seeds between his fingers with their exquisite hands. He visits his misbegotten garden, where the mint and chives flourish alongside the few stunted tomatoes and eggplants. They are scarce because of ignorance. He wonders all the time where he has arrived, why so much has been allowed him, even rain on the sugar maples, and why there is now even so much more to come.
That's kind of like, how did I end up here, right?
It is, yeah. And that's how life feels, a lot like that to me. And I love it.
Yeah, it's great. Jesse and I, my fiance, we go through that weekly or daily, almost, like in Vietnam, like, how did we end up in Vietnam doing what we do every day? And yeah. And then it's very interesting to actually think back, because in the end of the day, you must have done something. Like, it's not always luck. It's not always by accident. There's something you did on purpose to end up somewhere. There's
a will behind it for sure. And I love, you are such an international, dude. You're from Belgium. You had that whole New Zealand, Australia thing, and now you're in the East. It's like, it's super awesome. What a life, what different,
It's something.
How did you get here? It's awesome.
Yeah. That's, it's one of the reasons I started a podcast. There's many people with many interesting stories and the ways they got somewhere. Some people might end up at the same place. They might end up running a business in somewhere or wherever it is, but they've been through so many different steps in their lives that there's so much to learn from them. Yeah. And I kind of want to gather all of that together and share that with people, learn from it myself, obviously. Me as a young bloke.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a very wise thing to do. We get to have these very, deeper conversations because it's a podcast. We go there because it's your job to go there, and it's a good position to be in.
It's in a way my job. The thing is, I have a lot of good conversations with people all the time, and I always think like, dang, I should just record this stuff, So I started doing that. But then on the other hand, what the podcast does to people, like I send you guiding questions, like this is what we will be talking about, and then people go like, damn, I never thought about these things, or I'm not ready to talk about that yet. Like I had a few people like, sorry, I don't even know who I am. Let me get back to you in a few weeks or a few months, because like I have to think about these things. Or I had an episode with Geneva a few episodes ago, and she came to a revelation during the podcast, like, oh dang. So that's why I've been doing this the whole time. And like, and then that makes me so happy, talking about these things. You and I, we're very active in personal development, very active in the mindset and stuff like that. But there's a lot of people who are not. And if I can help one person think about something or get better at something, that's enough,
Absolutely. Yeah. I think I have very similar motivations for writing and the blog and everything. And, it's like, it's sharing, it's like getting like something, you are graced with something, and it's like this, this rocks or whatever. And it's like, hey, check this out. Like, look at this thing rocks, and you can, with the internet, we have the ability to, share that infinitely. It's pretty,
because
crazy.
There is so much information out there, and it's very difficult to actually find these things. And sometimes you just have to point out to you, is like, hey, check this out or do this. And I think especially what you do is you read so much and you take valuable information out of these books or chapters, or even just single sentences, poems you read out to us. But a lot of people don't want to read. That's not like, same for me. I try to read. It's very difficult. I'm more of a video kind of guy, to watch videos and learn through that. But if you're the one that pinpoints a certain thing and can share that with someone, it's like, okay, that's great. That's so much fun to help people doing that.
It is. And that's totally, I have a thing on my website called a needle stack. And it's just a list of like my favorite links on the internet. To like all these, like what I think are the best pages on the internet, because it feels like the internet is like, it's a haystack, and there's needles in there, but it's really hard to find the needle in the haystack. So it's the needle stack. I just put all the links together like that. But ultimately, that's what we're all, that's what we're trying to do.
That's so good.
I think we're both on that, chasing that same thing in that way. Yeah.
That's cool. Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for your time. You're a very busy man, I know, and your time is valuable. But it's good to catch up. I really hope I can come by again, or you'll be over soon, perhaps. Whenever that may be.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe this December I'll catch you. But yeah, if you're ever in the Southwest, let me know.
Yeah. Where can people find you the best? I'll definitely link down your website and your newsletter for the rest on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think, I mean, my website is just ethanmaurice.com. And then I think in the footer of every page, there's a thing you can download. I wrote this a ridiculously useful guide to cheap unconventional travel. And it's a PDF document. It's free. If you subscribe to my late night letters, that only come once a month, you can get that. And it's on any page on my website. So I'd say that's a good place to start. I think if you want to travel, for sure, there's a bunch of good little nuggets in there. And then I'm on, really the only other social media I use today is Instagram, and my handle is @Ethan.Maurice.
Okay, cool. We'll link down below. Cool. Sweet. Thank you so much.
Dude, thanks for having me, man. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, awesome. See ya.
All right. Okay.